me. I'm actually a neuroscientist by training. Next slide. There you go. So I am a cellular and molecular neuroscientist, but I also grew up in a home full of painting and music and literature. So I was that kid who didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up. So neuroscience looked like a really good compromise because that is the biology of how do people think and move and sense the world around them. And I have been working in the space community for 2 decades now. Don't do the math about how old that makes me. And I am very interested in what we are doing right now to explore space and go further into the universe. So next slide, please. Yes, we've got a lot of challenges that need to be solved to get us further into space. And some of them are related to this understanding more of the science of what happens to the human body when it goes into space, and the science that we have to do and the engineering in order to explore space and understand what's out there in the universe. And there are lots of other important things like who's going to help us to live and work in space. Next slide, please. And the really cool thing is it's a really exciting time in the world of space because more people are able to go into space now. You guys have probably heard of SpaceX and Blue Origin and NASA, which is in the corner over there underneath the rotating moon. And there are a lot of people getting engaged around the world in the future of space exploration and answering some of the hard questions about how do we keep people safe as we build this whole new environment of things happening in space around the Earth, but also we're headed back to the moon and then onward to Mars, and who knows, beyond there as well. So it's really, really cool. Spaceflight is indeed for everybody, and it's really important that we get people inspired and engaged and informed about what is happening in space. Next slide, please. And we need everybody's help to solve our challenges and get us into space. We are explorers. That's what humans are. And we have lots of challenges to face, the risks of space exploration, the engineering involved, and it's not just the engineers and the scientists that are going to get us there. It's going to take everyone to really work on their creative problem skills, understand what's going on, be open-minded, think of interesting solutions, and work together. Next slide, please. So I actually run a nonprofit, which is in that back corner right there, called Sci Art Exchange. And we are interested in bringing together space, science, and technology with multimedia artwork. And it is our intention to take advantage of the power of bringing the science and engineering together with the arts and not keep them stovepiped, which is what we traditionally did in our educational systems and the way we live our lives. There's no need to do that anymore. And why do we talk about art when we talk about space? Well, look at these pictures. Some of you may recognize the film The Martian. Some of you may recognize the Curiosity rover. How we communicate about space really helps to inspire people and let people know what is going on. Next slide, please. And here I am, inspired by space. Some of you might recognize this as an original Star Trek uniform. Yes, thank you so much out there. I am in my superhero costume today, not in my Star Trek uniform, but I was definitely inspired by space as a young girl. And this is an artwork that we did together with a Japanese video pop star who created a film for us after researching exactly what it is we're going to do scientifically on the surface of the moon. She created her own superhero and a music video about a young teenage girl doing all the engineering required to actually send a rover into space. And on the back of that rover was 2 stainless steel high heels that as it rolled across the surface of the moon, it left high-heeled footprints in the soil, which was brilliant storytelling, because what are we going to do in the next 10 years? We are going back to the moon, and we are going to send women and people of color to the moon. It's not just going to be men. So I think that's pretty cool, personally. And this was a wonderful way to tell that story. So there's a lot that can be done through the power of bringing the arts together with science and engineering. Next slide, please. But what you may not realize is that by bringing these together, we don't just communicate, but we also create better science and technology. Turns out that the majority of the Nobel laureates that we know of are still engaged in the arts as adults. There's a wonderful thing that happens in our brains by bringing together the kinds of thinking that comes out of dabbling both in the arts and science and engineering. So if you're a scientist and an engineer, go out there and play with music and the arts. If you're an artist, there's a role for you in the future of space as well. Next slide, please. So the main focus of the nonprofit is to really engage people and educate them, to foster creative problem solving so that we can really lead to greater innovation and get beyond into space, but also to foster teamwork between people and organizations that are normally stovepiped and solve those grand challenges. Next slide, please. So we're most well known, we are a virtual organization. We are most well known for having a global contests to challenge children or adults to create multimedia artwork about the future of space exploration. So whether it be comic strips, which you'll see in the back there, or films or posters or poetry or music pieces, it's up to you. Next slide, please. And then we use that multimedia artwork to engage the listeners and the viewers of the artwork as well. Next slide, please. And here's some examples of the artwork that come from children. And they're challenged to think about the future. Next slide. And this was from a contest for posters and films for adults. Next slide, please. And some of our activities are always open. So if you have a person who'd be interested in thinking about space, who might like to create something, if we like it, we will share it on social media and put it in our gallery. So some of our activities are timed, but not all of them. Next one. And we have been very fortunate to have a lot of people participate with us and view our multimedia artwork. So we're very, very grateful to all of those people. Next slide. What you'll see in our booth is our activity that we talked about last year, which was to create comic strips about how the imagery that we take in space helps people and communities around the world solve their local environmental challenges. So if you're interested in how you turn that into an engaging comic strip, which we see all throughout Comicpalooza, please stop by and take a quick peek at some of that. Next slide. And our current activity, which I'm excited to talk to you about, is we are creating a multimedia installation which will actually air in an art museum in Dallas, but also have an online presence as well to help people to have a better understanding of deep space images of the universe that we get through Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope. And the idea is for us to take that data and preserve as much of the science in it as possible, but create a sound and visual and physical experience for someone to roam around a part of the universe that none of us could ever experience in person. Next slide. And that's called Sensing Deep Space. Even if you're not in Dallas, you can check out the web. We're going to talk about this journey of bringing astrophysicists together with creative designers and the trades we make between the science and the art to create this art installation that is about deep space. Next slide. And my colleagues here in the Innovation Laboratory, we have worked together. They are presenting to you a really cool activity that is that basically allows you to think about the moon, the Mars, space rovers, or deep space. Create an artwork about that and put it up on a poster with a space-associated sound on it. So you put up your picture, you touch it, and you also trigger a sound. And you can even put your own sounds up there. It's pretty cool. It's in the back corner there. Next slide, please. At our booth, if you're also interested in creating some artwork, sending it on a real live rocket into space, and then having it mailed back to you stamped as flown in space, please come by and get these postcards. You can take them home and do that. And if you know anyone who might be interested in learning more about space and how you can get involved in this interesting thing of bringing science and technology together with the arts, please come visit us at siredexchange.org, because really it's going to take all of us, all different kinds of people working together around the world to inspire the world about space and solve the grand challenges ahead. So thank you very much. Hope to see you.